Yes, it's true. She has come back and posted a response after her hiatus. Caitibugzz has returned. She's apologized to the internet, said that she messed everything up and she completely failed, dropped the ball, all sorts of different stuff in this final statement allegedly final statement that she just put out. She put up this statement on this website. I don't know what this is, card.co, just a bunch of random letters. And in this, she put in 4 different sections in here. She's got her first stream, the clearing things up, and then her final stream. It looks like she's just archived these things. On top of in each section, she adds context that was missing in her initial stream allegation against GeorgeNotFound. She puts like different things in red when she like missed context or got details wrong in her initial stream allegation. Then what seems to be somewhat of an archive of the responses she posted on Twitter after GeorgeNotFound's first stream. And finally, her last stream, except this was just condensed from what she remembers that she said in her last stream, because she claims that the stream was lost. I guess she thinks Twitch deleted it, saying that that last stream had a serious, sarcastic, and flabbergasted tone. I cuss a lot and show frustration. But mainly I want to read this last post here titled Farewell, which is her last final apology, or final statement, whatever, where she apologizes, and let's just jump into it immediately. I'm just going to read it and then give my takes along the way. So let's get started. It starts off and she says, "What has become of the situation is a pile of confusion and miscommunications. One's too far out of my reach. The idea that this happened at a 21 plus club, that I said I was raped, even people pretending to know me. None of it's true. It was never said, so all I can do now is let it be. I still stand by what I said and have been saying, that I was touched underneath my clothing, groped in the chest, without consent, and under the influence. I never said it was more than that, but I stand by it that it wasn't any less. If he is the character he claims, he can also confirm this detail." And my personal problem with this statement that she's saying, where she's like, I never said it was more than that, is the way that she came across in her initial stream. I know this is something where she can be like, they just don't understand me. They just put all these accusations on me and just accuse me of all these sorts of things. But that's not the point. The point is that in her first stream, she put a ton of implication on that they were like minors and that they were really pressuring them to do drinking games, and that she was like frozen in fear, unable to move, just completely terrified and trembling in fear at George, which later was not true. She was getting up and down multiple times, talking with him, still laughing with him, hanging out. And so the thing is, yeah, you may not have directly said, oh, George raped me, right? Like that wasn't your exact wording, but you were putting a bunch of emphasis on this guy being an evil, horrible person. And that's another thing, is the implication of his character, like what you said that he is. You implied he was evil. You said things like, oh, why wouldn't I want to be touched by someone like him? And that's what he was thinking in that moment. Like this section here on your written statement that you made later, under the bold section, well, he just assumed because of your body language. You're directly saying, no, he assumed it was what I wanted, because why wouldn't I want that from him? You yourself applied that thought to him. You said, no, he assumed this because he was thinking this. And if you're not giving him any benefit of the doubt of what he can assume based on your body language, it's completely ridiculous for you not to return that and give him any benefit of the doubt on what he might be thinking in that moment. For you, you're 100% innocent. There's no possible way that there was a mutual, just physical kind of interaction happening here that seemed to want to escalate. That is impossible. There's no way that could have ever possibly happened. And for him, he was actually completely and totally evil in every single way. And you can make that assumption fairly, but he can't make any kind of assumptions about what the situation was at all. That's completely impossible. So no, you never said like, oh, he did more than like physically touch me in those ways. But you did say a whole bunch of emotional and mental things that were not confirmed at all about the way he was thinking in the moment and about the way he was as a character, and also just completely resetting up the scene in a way as if it was not some sort of mutual like physical hangout where you guys were cuddling and touching on each other. You did reform this entire scene in a way that made it look like you were as big of a victim as possible, which wasn't true, and you ended up backing down on a lot of things and clarifying that there was a bunch of details that you missed out on, which she says right here in the next part. I understand I mixed up details on the lead up to the assault. I have acknowledged my misspoken moments and addressed them. Many people wonder how I can mess up those other details due to being drunk, but still remember what happened to me / being felt up. I don't really have an explanation, other than you tend to remember those things no matter how hard you try not to. I'm sorry, I really don't have better answers. And it is somewhat fair. It's not like it's impossible to have something like that be more memorable. That does make sense. The thing is that you just wrote this whole story around the way that the situation happened in order to amp up the allegations and try to make George seem as ontologically evil as possible without communicating with him in any way, shape, or form. And none of that's to say, to be completely frank, that George is somehow a 100% innocent party in this. Honestly, I think he did learn a lot too. I genuinely think that he just simply misinterpreted her body signals. And that happens, it's a miscommunication, and that's basically the end of it. But yeah, this idea that he was somehow completely and totally in every single way the most evil person imaginable, I just don't believe it. I'm sorry. I'm totally willing to call someone an evil loser. If you guys have watched my channel at all, that's pretty much all I do is just call people evil or call them losers or just shit on them. But I've not bought it for GeorgeNotFound. It doesn't make any sense to me. Anyway, on to this next part. She says, as to people saying it was my fault for going there, for being drunk, etc., I can't say much. It's fine to find me at fault and even hate me, because you can. It doesn't mean it didn't happen. And so now she's just ceded this completely, saying, like, you can think of me as at fault for that. What I experienced was true, and so are my emotions recalling it. I was clumsy, with real fear, real pain, real tears, and there was no way to prove it. I thought I was doing something to help, to bring awareness to the complexity of SA and its different situations, to reach someone sheepish like myself, but I fear I failed. And yeah, her saying she fears she failed, I mean, honestly, I'm going to have to agree here. Because once again, sure, when you say the complexity of SA, okay, the complexity doesn't mean you get a bunch of details wrong and assume something about the other person, assume their intentions and assume that they're evil and tell them to go fuck themselves and not accept any kind of communication or any kind of apology in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. She's still kind of saying I failed, but she doesn't really completely understand why she failed. Maybe she will say here later on. I really am sorry at the view now painted on it all, more so because I wanted to be someone people could find safety in and confidence in. I always have tried to be. I apologize. But now, seemingly everything I do has a meticulous reason behind it. One really stemmed from premeditated opinions. I can't change minds set long before I spoke. I left the internet to come to terms with a lot. I realized I never took the time to. Somehow this situation has made it all feel less real, and it still never rids my mind. So her saying I can't change minds said long before I spoke, I mean, that's kind of ridiculous because it's not like I would not be able to listen to what you're saying and believe it. It's just that you manipulated the story and put in a whole bunch of things that aren't true or left out major key details. So no one's mind was set before you spoke. I just made a video on Wilbur Sut last night. I said it there and I'll say it again. I always try to have a neutral stance, a somewhat neutral stance when stuff like this initially comes out. I'm not immediately dismissive, but once George gave his response, I was pretty heavily on his side. He got a few things wrong here and there, like the 21 wristband stuff was pretty stupid of him to say. There's basically no reason for that at all. It didn't prove anything in any way. But most of what he said was just explaining what his thoughts were, what was going on in the party and stuff like that. And I thought it was a good response. I thought it was appropriate. And his second response was even better than the first. And her saying somehow the situation has made it feel less real and it still never rids my mind. I mean, that makes sense. I feel like Caitibugzz, maybe this is being too generous and charitable to her, but I think she's a young girl who was manipulated into thinking that somehow this would just cleanse her palate and make her forget everything that happened, and it would just be completely over with and done. And the only way to do that would be to do what she did, which is go public, be vague about it, let everyone figure it out, add all these details, add all these emotions and all sorts of like depth to it that leaves just tons of room for error and misinterpretations and shit. Like she worded at the beginning, miscommunications, shit like that. Rather than, I don't know, talking to George himself. That could also help this situation rid from your mind, talking to him and maybe seeing what was he thinking in that moment. Because she still continued to talk to him for months after this happened. Don't forget that section as well. She was still communicating with him, still talking with him, making jokes with him, talking about the night itself, joking about it. And she was texting her friends the next day like, yeah, I was chilling in the moments, like I was chilling out. But then the next morning, now I'm kind of like, maybe not. And so that is exactly what George was thinking. He was chilling in the moment too, just like you said to your friends. But instead of communicating to him, you did this, which obviously this is not going to make it rid from your mind. You just involved the entire fucking internet, including people like my dumbass with fucking 7,000 subscribers to peer into every single detail that ever happened this night. Obviously, it's not going to fucking rid it from your mind. That's ridiculous. And yeah, like I just said, here's the message. Like in the moment I was chilling, but thinking back on it, I'm sweating a little bit like, damn. And I also don't know if I was chilling in the moment because I was drunk. I don't know. I have to ponder on it or just forget about it because it's over with. So that's what I mean. It's like, this is kind of the impression you had. He might have been in the same boat. He was like, oh, okay, everything's chill. We're hanging out. She's being physical with me. I'm being physical with her. I'm escalating a little bit because she's just really, into me right now. And maybe she wants this. And this is fun. Like that's as deep as it was, but you didn't want to communicate that with him. You instead wanted to take it to the fucking internet for everyone to interpret. Like, it just doesn't make any sense. I know it may not seem like it, but I never had a secret objective or need for the attention that came. I'm sure deep down I felt wronged, like something was taken from me, but nothing is as simple as it feels. In truth, I saw someone I looked up to speak about something hard and figured I could do the same. Maybe I could become that person for someone else, or help someone realize what happened to them, that it wasn't their fault. I can't help but feel like a failure. I tried so hard to be this beacon when I'm still struggling myself. And yeah, this is just like weird because she basically just says I was copying Shelby with the Wilbur shit. And then, I don't know, it just didn't work out how she thought it would. I guess in fairness, Wilbur just completely submitted to everything Shelby said, and then George didn't. I hope everyone who has gone through SA, no matter the severity, heals. If you've gotten justice or not, if it's black and white or not, it's valid. I hope you heal for every time and once over. And then she clarifies that one comment on stream where she said that a lot of people are telling her to go to the cops, and she was like, fuck you. Basically just completely dismissing the idea of going to, I don't know, authorities for alleged sexual assault, which was a terrible message to put out there. And she corrects it here at the end where she says, I also believe that if you have the courage, take it up in court every time. Unfortunately, in my life, I've seen those close to me failed by the system, resulting in my negative outlook and my idea of injustice. No matter, you should not take my opinion and my way of going about things into your path for justice. I'm sure you can do it. Positive. Goodbye. Which is, I guess, a little bit more fair of a take. It's like, okay, that's a little bit more reasonable than what you said before. So that seems to be Caitibuggz's new response. She also put out a whole other section where she like clarified individual parts. Like she basically has a transcript of her first stream that she did, and she put little parts in red that like clarify exactly what she meant in her first stream and fills in all the gaps that she, you know, missed out on. I can do a video reviewing that if you guys want, if you've made it this far in. Let me know in the comments if you want me to do that. Otherwise, I'm pretty much going to leave it at that because that's really, she just keeps making these statements. It's like her final say. And I don't know, it just changes every time. Now she's apologizing. It's strange. And that's really all I got to say about this. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Peace.